Welcome from the deep. I am Mike the Finder.
And I am Book of Brett.
And today we're going to be talking about the 2023 film 65.
65.
6-5.
Cinco seis. Say cinco.
I'm doing it. You don't have to point it at my head. So anyway, we're talking about the film 60. I'm doing it.
Mike's having a breakdown.
We're talking about the film 65 happily and of our own free will.
Yes. There's no one telling us to do it. I'm doing it too.
No, it's of our own free will. Before we get into that, though, let's do just a little bit of housekeeping. If you're only listening to this on your favorite podcast app like Spotify and or Apple Podcasts, make sure you go check out the YouTube page, as it gets a lot of content that the RSS feed and or podcast does not get. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you go check us out over on your favorite podcast app if you want to listen in the car, because I know there are tons of people that want to listen to this without our awful looking faces on it.
And it's better than contemplating your own life decisions while you sit in traffic.
Exactly. So 65. This is something that I have had on my watch list for a while. I saw the preview for this. I feel like when I went to go see Violent Night, I think, was the first time I saw anything about this.
That's interesting because that's when I saw it, and I am 3 time zones away from you.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is something I would not describe myself as a huge Adam Driver fan. In fact, I've only ever seen him in 2 things, maybe?
I've seen him in 1 thing. And it was the first of the new Star Wars movies.
Right. I also saw him in White Noise. He's pretty good in White Noise. I don't know if you've seen that.
I like him.
Yeah. For the most part,
I saw him in.
I've seen clips of that movie with Scarlett Johansson. What is it? Marriage Story? Is that what it's called?
It could be. I wouldn't know.
I believe that's what it's called. And it's real heavy looking, and it looks like he's actually emoting in that versus 65, but we'll get to that. As we usually
Pablo Pascaling.
So as we usually do, why don't you go ahead and give us a quick synopsis, and then we will compare your synopsis to what IMDb says. We'll look at all of that stuff. We'll do quick little reviews for this, spoiler free, and then we will talk more specifics after that. But before we get into spoilers, as always, we will put up a big spoiler alert thing on the screen and let you know before we start spoiling everything, and then we will give our ratings and all of that stuff. So why don't you go ahead and give us a quick synopsis of 65.
So 65 is about Adam Driver playing a spaceship pilot whose name I can't remember because he's forgettable, and they are on an exploration mission that's going to take a few years, and he has taken the job because his daughter is sick with a sickness that we never find out about because it's one of 50 plot holes in this movie, and then the spaceship crashes onto a planet infested with dinosaurs. This takes place before humans come about, even though humans are the only things we see other than reptiles.
Okay, well, we don't know that they're humans. They're just a species that lived before us in another solar system.
Like humans.
Yeah, the weird thing that really bothered me is that they also speak English, and there's a whole bunch of weird stuff you kind of have to look past if you're going to enjoy this movie.
It's a sci-fi movie, though. You kind of do have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of is par for the course with sci-fi. So as we usually do, let's jump over to the podcast drive-in. Look at IMDb here, 65, 2023, PG-13. I feel like maybe an R would have done some good for this. It's also only an hour and 33 minutes, which I also feel like is not long enough for this movie.
Nope.
Another 20 to 40 minutes I would have been totally okay with.
Absolutely.
Just to flesh out just fucking everything.
Some character development.
Yeah, and God, okay, we'll get there. This is directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods, who also wrote it. It stars Adam Driver, Ariana Greenblatt, and Chloe Coleman. That's a hell of a name. Chloe Coleman. Say that 9 times fast. Chloe Coleman.
Chloe Coleman.
See, it's fucking more difficult than one would assume. And then the 1-sentence synopsis from IMDb here: an astronaut crash lands on a mysterious planet only to discover he's not alone.
Because there's another character. Oh, and dinosaurs. And let's be clear, it's mysterious for 15 minutes until the title screen, which tells you exactly where they're at.
Well, so I think that's what's kind of weird, right? When I first watched this, I have now seen this twice, by the way. I went to the theater to watch this twice now. When I first saw this, I was actually, it's weird. I was thinking it's weird that they have all of that plot dump like right up front. Like this is not humans. We start on not Earth. He is not going back in time. This is something completely else, even though like all the trailers made it seem like he's a human that goes back in time 65 million years. And then within the first 4 minutes of the movie, you find out that's not the case.
Yep.
That's a little strange to me.
Yeah, it's a little weird, but at the same time, this is clearly a movie that's about the action. This is not a movie. This is not Planet of the Apes.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's very clear that they did not want the Planet of the Apes ending, where you find out at the end, like, oh my God, like he hasn't gone back. He's just from before. And, you know, that would have been kind of an interesting ending, but it's also been done just to fucking death. So I feel like that's the only reason they didn't do it. And so they felt the need to drop all that knowledge on you right up front, which kind of makes it it makes it weird. The word I'll use.
Yeah. It's definitely one of those things where like I feel like everything is rushed up until the title screen.
Yeah,
up until the title screen, everything it just goes through it. It's just get through the first few minutes so we can get to the important stuff, which is them on the planet, which again is why I agree with you. This could have I could have handled another 15, 20 minutes. Like we don't find out anything about them. Like we never find out what his daughter is sick with, except a cough. She could be dying from pneumonia for all we know.
We see the wife in a scene and then never again.
Right, exactly. And so it's but like I said, this is not a movie that's about character development. There is a story in here, but for the most part, this feels like it's about the spectacle. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, for sure. This is, it kind of felt like they were just like, we need to get all the plot out of the way so that we can just put him around dinosaurs. Like, okay, well, why don't you go ahead and give me your initial thoughts on this movie, spoiler free, and then I'll give you mine and then we'll go into specifics.
My initial thoughts were that it is a fun ride. It is a theater movie. I gotta say that. I really feel like this is a theater movie. This is a spectacle to be seen. Everything on screen is beautiful. The CGI is really good. The cinematography is really good. The cinematographer on this, I can't remember his name, but I believe it's an Italian name. The dude is part of like 2 cinematographer societies. And it shows. It's really good. The camera work is good, though meh. And again, the story is nothing special. My whole thing is I liked this because I like sci-fi a lot. I also was one of those nerdy kids that was hyper into dinosaurs as a kid. And so this was right up my alley as far as having a fun ride. And one thing that I really, really noticed about this is the kind of movie that you just go to let go of everything and just enjoy an hour and a half of not having to worry about anything. That comes from, for context of that, like I've had a really rough month. And so it was kind of nice to just sit there, be able to enjoy something that didn't really require a lot of thought, which is not something I normally say. But this is a movie that made me understand people who do go to movies to not be stimulated mentally, but just to be stimulated in pretty much every other way other than mentally. And that's what this movie is. It is a sci-fi, almost sci-fi fantasy spectacle. And so from that perspective, it's a lot of fun and it's really good. from the perspective of everything else related to cinema, it's middle of the road at best.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. The what's funny is like when I was like, "Hey, I think we should do 65." I expected you to call me kind of the same way you did with the last several movies that we've watched afterwards and just be like, "I hate you for making me watch this." And this is the first movie in months that's happened where you haven't called me and said that. So
It's almost like it's a me thing.
well, I mean, for me, I think that this is pretty strong, actually. I think, like I said, I've now seen this twice, and I have a much greater appreciation for it now that I've seen it twice. I really enjoyed it the first go around. It's not super deep. It's shallow as a puddle, but that is not necessarily a bad thing. This is a blockbuster popcorn movie, and there is nothing wrong with that. In theory.
No, not when it's a one-off type of thing like this. What you just said of why, of what we just said of why we enjoy it is kind of a part of why we shit on Marvel movies, but we're probably not going to see 30 of these.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like Marvel is only exhausting because of how many times we've had to deal with it at this point. Something like this, there's nothing wrong with making a movie that is just to go and, like you said, to just turn your brain off. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. You know, for me, I thought that this was surprisingly fun, and I don't say that very often where I'm just like, this is a fun movie, and I think that surprisingly, this was way, way, way better than I thought it was going to be. The cinematography is really, really great. The CGI is insane to look at. There are shots in this. There are shots in this where I'm just like, I can't believe how insanely good that looks. When you compare like the dinosaurs to something like Jurassic Park or something, you really can see how goddamn far we've come, even though they were using animatronics and stuff. It's insane how much they've. Yeah, exactly. And I will also say this. It is really fun to see Earth and like the woods and stuff with the dinosaurs running through it. It's really fun. That's something you don't see very often, like a realistic depiction of Earth with dinosaurs in it.
Before we ruined it.
Yes. Exactly.
That was something that really stood out to me. I really felt like the first couple minutes after the title screen, half of me expected David Attenborough to chime in out of absolutely nowhere. Because it's got these beautiful establishing shots. This movie is eye candy done correctly. And it's, again, for sci-fi fans, I think this is going to be a very good pleaser for sci-fi fans because for sci-fi fans, I feel like people who like sci-fi are very similar to people who like horror in the sense of you can let a lot of shit slide when you're already into the genre. When you're already into it, you can let a lot of shit go. Like the first few minutes I'm sitting here and I'm consciously and actively noticing the quick pacing of this film as I'm watching it. And I'm sitting here going, okay, this is a movie where that's not the point. If I was watching something like The Last Samurai or Ben-Hur or Lawrence of Arabia or something like that where so much matters and every little detail matters. If we had moved through those types of movies the way we moved through this, it's a totally different feel, totally different vibe. But for something like this, it's a movie about a spaceman fighting dinosaurs. How much fucking context do you really need to enjoy that?
I mean, yeah, for sure. This is, like I was saying, it's shallow, and I would love to see 40 more minutes of this. I think if you tack on at least 15 to 20 minutes at the beginning so that we get attached to the daughter, we see a little bit of what his life is like before he goes out on this whole thing so that we actually get to know him as a human being so that there's slightly more at stake whenever he does go on this giant long trip. I think that would do a world of good. Not to mention, just set up some world building. The only thing we see from his home planet is those weird wave-like mountains, which is super cool, but it made me want more.
The Nightmare Before Christmas hills.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's just the pacing is the biggest thing for me. And now that I've seen it twice, I feel like it is so much more noticeable the second time around, as well as how little actual dialogue is in this movie. That's not something I super paid attention to the first time, because I was just kind of on board. And the first time I watched it, I was not watching it as a review. So I was just sitting in the theater trying to enjoy it as a dumb, thoughtless movie. And at that, it succeeds really, really well. And it's not until I went to go see it a second time where I started to see all the plot holes. And when I really went to go sit down to watch it, to review it, that's when all that stuff started to pop up. And when I was walking out of the theater, I heard the guys that were sitting in front of me. The guy was like, I liked it for what it was. I mean, it's not going to win an Oscar, but it was a hell of a lot of fun. And that's the point of this movie. It's just fun.
It's the movie version of the video game Ark Survival Evolved. If you've ever played Ark Survival Evolved, you start the game by waking up on an island on a piece of land infested by dinosaurs. And you take out everything before the title card, and that's what this movie is, except it's got a bigger objective.
Yeah.
Or actually, maybe a smaller objective, because eventually in Ark, you find out that you're actually supposed to be figuring out the secrets of this island. But either way, the pacing issues are really only there in the beginning, and after that, I actually think it's paced pretty decently when you consider the fact that they're going a relatively small distance through what I can only describe as Yellowstone Park.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, though. It's like once they do get all of the plot shit out of the way, it does slow down considerably.
Yeah.
And I actually, again, I think another 10 to 15 minutes in the middle of this, of them just exploring and seeing more dinosaurs and more of Earth and all of that stuff, I think it just would have helped immensely with world building. And that's the thing that this is missing the most, is the world building. But again, it's like you said, this is probably a one-off, and we're probably not going to see anything more from this. I mean, maybe if it smashes at the box office. But
remember when that was okay?
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like refreshing, because this is just sort of like a mindless, fun popcorn movie, and you don't get many of those that are not Marvel anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just like I think you said it best. It was refreshing to be able to just sit there, enjoy a beer, and just enjoy the spectacle taking place in front of you. This is a really, really good example of a movie that's not out to break ground, not out to make a statement. It's just there to have fun. And it really harkens back to the old days of movies just being an escape from everyday life. This is I feel like going and seeing this is the same reason why people tune in every week to watch sports. I'm not a big sports fan. I don't watch a lot of sports. But this to me feels like kind of the same mentality of it's there to really just escape from the mundanity, whatever, however you want to pronounce
it. Just mundane.
No. Is that right?
To escape the mundane. Yeah.
Well, egg on my face. But no, so
ew.
it's just like you said, it was refreshing.
Yeah.
It was really, really refreshing to go and watch and to just have a good time for a little bit.
Yeah. All right. So before we get into spoilers here, why don't you go ahead and tell me if you think this is actually worth watching, especially if it's worth going to the theater.
Yeah, it's worth both. It's worth going and seeing. I would actually say you have to go see this in theaters. This is the type of movie that makes me wish I had seen the first two Aliens movies in theaters and wish I could still see them in theaters. But again, I'm a big sci-fi fan. I'm a sci-fi fan kind of in the way that you're a horror fan. I'm much more into sci-fi than I am into horror. And I think this is absolutely worth going and seeing if you're going to see it for the right reasons and with the right expectations.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. This is like a fun group movie. I've now seen it twice, and in the first showing, the theater was completely full, and it was a really good time to see this with other people. And like he said, I think that seeing this in a theater is, if you're into this idea, see it in a theater, because it really helps it a lot. In a massive screen, huge sounds. The audio in this is insane. The surround sound is so stupid good. The music is awesome. The visuals are great. Adam Driver is, I don't know, bad at showing emotion. I will say that. There are moments in here where you really need him to show a lot of human emotion, and it just kind of falls short a little bit.
Part of that to me actually started resonating as frustration with this girl, which I started resonating with.
Right.
Because I actually have it in my notes. The oldest obstacle. Children.
Well, I also think that giving him somebody to look after is not something I was expecting. I can't remember if that was in the trailer or not.
It is.
Was it?
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. She's in the trailer. We just don't understand how she fits into it in the trailer. We're actually going to get into how I feel about her role in the grand scheme of things.
Okay, well, before we get into that, let's just go ahead and say now, from here on out, we are going to have some spoilers. We will be talking about specifics inside of the movie, and if you would like to skip to just our rating, I will leave chapters down here in the timeline so that you can skip any of the spoiler section that you want to, and just jump to see our rating on this whole thing. So let's just get into that. Give me everything you've been thinking, because I know you got some shit to say about this.
So let's just start from the beginning. Let's just go with the beginning. From the very beginning, it is made very clear, as we said already, that this is not a movie that you are going to invest emotionally in a lot of aspects of. There are quite a few plot holes here. We never ever find out what his daughter is sick with. We never find out why a 9-year-old girl is on an exploration ship. It's supposed to be.
No, he does say that. He says that he was help returning them home.
He was returning them home, but why were they on there to begin with when it was an exploration mission? That was my whole thing.
I don't think they ever say specifically it's an exploration mission, do they?
They do, yes.
I don't think that's right. So I don't specifically remember him saying that. That doesn't mean he doesn't.
I remember them saying that.
Okay,
and
that's fair.
It made me go, what the fuck is she doing on this ship that's meant as exploration, especially when it's a ship that's only supposed to be on a 2-year voyage? The only way that makes sense to me is if it got rooted off course and then, she was born on the ship and they've been on here for a very, very long time. However, again, it's never, ever explained. There's almost zero backstory to any of this except the fact that they are, in fact, on a mission. And that's it. But again, like we said, that's not really what you're investing in this movie for. Once we do get to Earth, I was invested in it. However, this entire movie could have existed without this little girl. She is there simply to create tension.
Well, she's also there to help bring like a little bit of heart to this whole thing. Because without her, without the daughter, you just have a really stale sci-fi movie with no heart whatsoever. So
no, I understand that, but I feel like we still, because he's got the picture of his daughter, I feel like we still could have had that heart in there without her in it. And even though, yes, she does add more than nothing, I don't feel like it's a ton more than nothing that her character adds to it. Now, with that said, the girl who plays her is very good at showing emotion in a role that has almost no dialogue.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
This little girl is really good in this role.
Yeah.
The interaction between them, I really enjoyed. I mean, I wouldn't say there's a lot of chemistry between them, but it's really hard to pick up on chemistry when you don't really have much of a dialogue going on. I will say I find it very odd that at times she seems to understand English. Like, there's one point where he looks at her and he goes, "Ready?" And she goes, it's like, dude, 5 minutes ago, you didn't know what family meant. Like, and now you understand what ready means. Like, it's little things like that. But again, in something like this, I was able to let it go and just enjoy it because it's about the dinosaurs. This movie is about the dinosaurs and the sci-fi tech that's involved in it. That's the cool stuff. This is like, just like, what is it that we watched? That Scream 6 was a fan movie.
Yeah.
It was fan service.
We will link that up top here and down in the description if you want to hear our thoughts on Scream 6.
This is a genre fan service movie. This is giving sci-fi fans what they want, which is action in a fairly new setting. Like, I think the last time I saw anything that was related to sci-fi with dinosaurs was Velocipaster. And I have not, no, we need to be clear. I've not watched Velocipaster, mostly because it's called Velocipaster.
Right.
However,
I have a feeling that's why the rest of the world has never seen it either.
Yes. Yeah. Well, the only people that watch Velocipaster are the ones that genuinely like Sharknado.
Hey, Sharknado's not that bad. I have the box set.
Wow. So we're going to talk about that later. No, but so it's again, overall though, that's the thing. Let me try that again. That's the thing, though, is there isn't a ton to dissect here. There's a ton to talk about in an excited, energetic way. But as far as dissecting this movie,
yeah,
there's really not a lot to dissect here.
Well, do you want to hear something I had a huge issue with?
Yeah, love to.
His fucking computer that he carries around in his pocket doesn't have a fucking translator built into it. Like, the only thing that's ever said...
I didn't even think about that.
The only thing that's ever said about it is, my translator's broken. That's all he ever... Just like everything else on this ship, my translator's broken.
But it's
and the
that's
fucking
right.
thing
He
that he
does
carries
say that.
around with him, it does everything else, including creates 3D models and holograms in real time in the dark so that you can see it doesn't translate language.
And detects astronomical anomalies thousands of miles up into the sky.
Yeah, it can tell you
That's a really good point. I didn't even think about that. I think I didn't think about that, though, because by the time he says my translator's broken, I think mentally I went, everything wrong with this movie is part of the movie, and I accept it for how it is.
Yeah, well, I mean, because watching this is definitely like watching a horror movie where you just have to, you're either in or you're not, and there are a lot of little plot holes here and there throughout this movie, but none of it ruins the entire experience. Like something, like if that was in Blade Runner or something, I'd have been like, but what? Like, what the fuck?
Well, because this is a lot like the review that we did with the VHS Files guys. Now that episode is not out yet. But it will be coming out, and the movie that we did for that, I'm not going to ruin the movie that we did because the episode's not out. However, the movie that we did for that, one of the things all 5 of us agreed on was that movie knew what it was and it invested in the right areas. Yeah. This movie knows what it is and it invested in the right areas, even more so than the movie that we watched with the VHS Files guys, because in that movie, acting was not something that I was invested in. And here we at least have good actors.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is like Adam Driver is more than capable of carrying this entire thing.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
When we find out, like, there's a point where she notices the asteroid in the sky way before he does. And when he finally notices it, I literally said, like, well, fucking finally, you finally look up. You finally look up. You're like capable of like doing all these insane things with a gun, and like you know how to kill stuff and survive and all that shit. I don't know. To see what time of day it is, to see if it's gonna rain, to see if there are clouds, to see if you could figure out where you're at in the star system.
Why would he do that when he's got a handheld version of the supercomputer from Hitchhiker's Guide?
Exactly.
Like, but you know, and I gotta say, when they introduced the asteroid, I
love that it ties in with that's how they got there too.
Yes. It ties in with that. Can we say what the asteroid is?
Yeah. We're spoilers here.
The asteroid in the sky is the meteor that destroys the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And when they put in that element, I was like, that is a really, really cool element. Again, though, I was a huge dinosaur nerd as a kid. I was super into dinosaurs, hashtag Stegosaurus. And it was really, really cool to see them throw that in there too, because it not only added this thing of something that actually happened in, you know, Earth's history, but it added this element of distress to the whole thing. And it's another
it's the only
reason
way to really add tension to it other than the dinosaurs. Yeah.
Yes, and I gotta say, I mean, obviously, since you know, this is the asteroid that, you know, destroys the dinosaurs, you can kind of tell what the ending is without us telling you, which is the asteroid finally hitting Earth. That whole scene is beautiful.
Oh, dude, the entire third act. I fucking love the entire third act of this movie. It's awesome. Dude, the climax of this film is fucking sick.
Listen to us, though. Listen to how excited we are about a movie with such little thematic substance.
Yeah. Well,
this does not happen often.
No. Here's something that some people will get. Here in Orlando, we have Disney World, and inside of Hollywood Studios, there's a ride called Dinosaur, based on that really old CGI dinosaur Disney movie from like mid 2000s, I think, something like that.
I thought you were gonna say it's based on The Good Dinosaur, and I was like, do you cry every time you ride on it?
But that entire ride is based around them sending you back in time to grab a dinosaur.
That's dope.
And as you're there, the asteroid starts falling, and that's all I was thinking of the entire time I was watching this movie. Is like, this is like, if this was a Disney movie, they need to tie that right in with this because it's so perfect. But yeah, dude, the entire third act is flawless. Like, there are problems here and there, like T-Rex flipping over the fucking spaceship to make it flyable again. That bothered me a lot, but it's something I'm willing to look past.
Sci-fi.
Yeah.
But dude, that's the thing though, man. This movie really reminded me of why I love sci-fi. Like, the first shot we get of the ship going through space, the design of it, I got excited about.
When he's sitting there, like, flipping all the little things when you're in the cockpit with him, it's great. Yeah.
That's what sci-fi's about, man. It's about letting go. It's about putting yourself into impossible circumstances, situations, and environments, and just enjoying the ride. And that's the thing about sci-fi, though. It can go one way. It can really, really pull you in and hit you emotionally, like Interstellar or 2001, or it can scare the shit out of you like Aliens and the Alien franchise, or it can just be a fun ride like this.
Well, I think the only thing that would make it better is, like I said earlier, giving this an R rating, giving it more gore, giving it some more kills, more dinosaurs, all that stuff. But that's the thing, is like it doesn't overstay its welcome almost too much. Like, because I wanted more out of it. And I would fucking love to see him reunite with his wife at the end and introduce this girl who has no parents now to his wife. I feel like that would give a lot of closure to this whole thing, and it really sets up the whole she has found a new family, he has found somebody to take care of because of how his daughter passed away and all that stuff. They kind of replace each other's familial stuff that way, and it's super good, but they don't touch on it enough. And at the end, I just would love to see them, I don't know, reunite and see him get back home. That's what the only thing it's missing at the end.
And I would have been on board with that, because once we go that route, now we've got a sci-fi epic.
Yeah.
And if there is one thing I love more than a good sci-fi movie, it's a good epic.
Yeah.
My favorite movies, two of my top 5 all-time movies are The Last Samurai and Gladiator. Both epics.
Yeah.
And so I would have been all about that. But that's the other thing. This has a lot of epic elements to it as far as the grandiosity of the whole thing. And I think that's another reason why I like sci-fi so much, because sci-fi in its nature is grandiose.
Well, this is what's interesting, right? Is I am a pretty vocal hater of hard sci-fi. Like, I typically don't like hard sci-fi. But this just goes to show, all you gotta do is add dinosaurs to it. I'm like immediately on board. You make sci-fi and dinosaurs and you mix them up, and it's like, that is like the perfect mashup.
More dinosaurs. Hollywood, listen up. More dinosaurs all the time, everywhere.
Well, what's also awesome is the very end kill of the T-Rex that he shot the eye out of earlier.
Yeah.
That kill is so fucking cool, and the setup to it is that it's such a good payoff to the setup that happened earlier with him. I still find it kind of weird that he didn't like have boiling hot water rain down upon him when he's 3 feet away from it.
I noticed that too.
Strange.
I noticed it too.
He also didn't get any of it on him when he had the dinosaur run over it and stuff. Whatever. But the setup and the payoff is really good. Yes, he did. He did on his like jacket or whatever. Yeah.
But that's the cool thing. He's a fucking human. I mean, I know he's an
action hero, but he's somebody that's believable because he's not fucking diehard. Like,
right.
He doesn't just run around and kill everything all the time and save the situation every single time. He struggles, and he really, like, you know, it really is even though he's probably not actually human, it really is this like human side of like a hero in that sort of a realm with sci-fi and stuff you don't get a whole lot of.
Well, and that I actually kind of like enjoy as kind of an homage to old sci-fi, because old sci-fi, it was always aliens who looked just like humans.
Yeah.
I mean, almost all of them, actually. The classics, I mean, like, the aliens always look like humans, and that was something that I enjoyed as well. It was this really kind of cool homage to classic sci-fi. So altogether, like I said, man, this really is a movie that I think sci-fi fans are really gonna enjoy.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree. All right, well, why don't you go ahead and give me your final thoughts on this and your rating for 65?
So 65 is definitely worth the watch. Definitely a theater experience. 100% a must-see in theaters if you have the opportunity to go see it. A lot of theaters these days are doing super cheap matinees. I know Mike has an AMC subscription that makes it really affordable to go see a lot of movies.
Yep.
And if
I've seen 5 brand new releases this month, and it was $25 for the month.
Yeah.
So
So if you can go see this in theaters, I really, really think this is a movie you need to go and see in theaters, unless you just have a crazy home theater setup.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, a 4K disc is going to make this look and sound incredible.
Yeah, dude, I might have to go buy four more Sonos speakers before this movie comes out in 4K. By the way, I bought the Sonos soundbar. Oh my God, it's awesome. I love it. However, again, definitely a theater movie. Definitely a movie to go see. It is just a fun ride, but it is a fun ride that I think is going to appeal to an incredibly wide range of an audience, from the Marvel people to the people that are really into something a little bit more in depth, something that's got a little bit more substance. This is a movie with a very wide appeal that I definitely recommend. And my rating, again, is going to be based off of what this movie is. And I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10.
Okay, well, for me, as somebody who is genuinely not into sci-fi all that much, this was a ton of fun. I thought that, when I went into this, I knew very little about it. I really didn't remember the trailer all that much. And so I went into it kind of blank, and I really ended up enjoying it a lot. This is a fun sci-fi experience, but it's not hard sci-fi to the point where it's just like, okay, I get it. There's tech and you're on a spaceship. I don't care. Like, that's the stuff that I don't like.
Very
generally.
few beep boops.
Yeah, and they move that shit right along to where just like, boom, you're on the planet. And like, as much as we've talked about like that this could be longer, there is something to be said about making this an hour and a half and really streamlining the entire process from beginning to end, and making it something that doesn't overstay its welcome and really knows what it is and who it's for. Like Brett said, I
like to imagine that it was supposed to be 2 hours long and the CGI artists were just like, we can't do it anymore. We've been creating this world for years.
Well, like Brett said, this is like old school sci-fi to me. This feels like if they made more sci-fi like this, I would go see more sci-fi. This is not Star Wars nerdy, like Space Republic, Republic political blah 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 wah 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 bore.
Boo this man!
This is not political intrigue in space. Thank God. This is action. This is sci-fi action, and I absolutely loved it. And for everything
it's like you
that
purposefully chisel away at our friendship. And I don't know why you do these things.
I don't like Star Wars. I don't know what you want me to tell you. I just don't. I'm never gonna. I don't get it. I don't get it. But you don't have to get Star Wars in order to enjoy 65. I think that's
true.
I think that there are some severe script problems here. I would even call the pacing problems that we've been talking about problems. There are problems in here. There are tons of little loopholes that you can find all over the place, like the thing we were talking about with the translator and the GPS and all that other stuff.
And how she finds him when he's already been buried in quicksand and the water isn't moving anymore.
Dude, that's the thing that Nicole pointed out at the end. She was like, how would he have known that branch was there? He was surrounded by stuff. There's no way that he would just be like, oh, branch, right, of course, I'm going to grab on it. There's all sorts of stuff like that, but if you can look past it, there is a really, really fun, really good movie in here, and it has a lot of heart, even though it can feel a little emotionally manipulative at times with the daughter and the new girl and all that stuff,
and
kind
the daughter
of being shoehorned in there a little bit.
And the daughter.
Yeah. There and I would love to know why she's sick. I would love to have some closure at the end with the wife and like having at the very least a fucking conversation about his kid dying. And I realize it's probably a year and a half later when we're seeing him do all this stuff versus when the kid actually died or whatever. None of that matters. It's fun and it is a good ride, like Brett said. And for me, this is a strong 7 out of 10. I think that if you can look past the problems, you're going to have a ton of fun here, and you don't need to be super hardcore sci-fi nerd to enjoy it. So this has massive appeal.
We're not the pretentious assholes you all seem to think we are.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. At least one of us
I'm
is.
good.
Yeah. So,
Mr. Infinity Pool.
How dare you? See, now you're trekking on some fucking sacred ground here. Infinity Pool is amazing.
Well, at least it's not Star Trek.
Yeah.
Come at me.
Thank God for that. So let us know what you guys thought about this movie down in the comments. I would love to hear from somebody who's also not super into sci-fi, what you thought about this. Are you going to go see this in theaters?
The opposite.
Yeah. Are you going to go see this in theaters? Are you going to wait until this comes out on VOD? I think this would be a much less experience, just less at home. And it's great. It's a really good time to see it with other people. Please start going back to theaters, everybody.
Yeah.
Please.
Dude,
this is a great reason to do it.
I got to commend you on this. You are the reason why I started enjoying theaters again, because you basically forced me to start watching new movies. I was so reluctant, and now the people at Roadhouse Cinemas in Colorado Springs are recognizing me. That's how often I'm going there.
That's a good thing.
It's not a bad thing at all. It's definitely a good thing. And I gotta say, had I been stubborn, it's also doing wonders for my social anxiety. But had I not seen this until it came out on video, this would have been a movie that made me go, you know what? I really wish I would have gone and seen that in theaters.
Yeah, dude. I have actively seen more people starting to go back to theaters, and thank God. And you have to support. This is the thing, people. You have to support movies like this if you want theaters to carry anything other than fucking Marvel movies and Avatar.
I know you motherfuckers are paying $200 for concert tickets. You can go pay $8 to go watch a movie.
Go back to theaters, please. I promise you, movies like this, honest to God, dude, 2023 has had a really strong start. We have seen a ton of stuff come out in theaters that is phenomenal. There is a ton of stuff coming out later this year that is totally worth going to a theater to see. And you have to support movies that are not Marvel in the theaters if we want more movies in theaters that are not Marvel. So
Yep. Now, to be fair, I saw a lot of previews for this that made me go, oh no.
Oh yeah, the previews, I mean, make this look like something that it kind of isn't, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what previews played for you, but I got like Mafia Mama, and I got the Super Mario Brothers movie, which just looks like a whole new version of a shit pile from the 90s one that we've got.
Those are all the trailers that played when I went to go see the new Children of the Corn.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, after what I heard about that from you, I can understand that. But that's the thing is, like there are movies that are coming out that I'm like, well, I don't need to go see that in theaters. This is one that I remember seeing the trailer for on Violent Night, and I went, that's a theater movie.
Yeah.
It's got dinosaurs. It's got sci-fi. And I'll tell you one thing that sci-fi always does well. No, I should retract that. Almost always does well is visual and audio spectacle.
Yeah.
Audio is such a big part of sci-fi. It's such a big part.
Dude, and the surround sound in this is just incredible. Like,
God
they killed it.
Did they nail it?
Dude.
The audio engineer, I just want to take that motherfucker out for a steak and treat him to a tiramisu, because he or she did a phenomenal job.
Yeah. So, like I said, let us know down in the comments what you guys thought about this. If you like this, make sure you hit the like button. If you really liked it, make sure you hit the subscribe button because we got a lot more content like this on this channel. We've been trying to do more new theatrical release stuff on this channel this year. And this is a big part of why, because we want to start trying to push people to go to more theaters. This is a big deal. Everyone around me has been, including Brett here, for the longest time has been like, I don't want to go back to theaters. Nicole texted me the other day. We saw Cocaine Bear and 65 on Sunday, both on the same day. And she texted me the other day. She was like, I had a ton of fun doing that. And it's just like, you don't realize how much fun going to a place, a communal space to share an experience like this with other people is until you start to do it again. And I'm telling you, go back to theaters. I'm telling you, please, I'm begging you, go back to theaters. So thank you guys for watching. If you got to all the way to the end of this, we really, really super appreciate it. And we will see you guys next time from the deep. Bye-bye.
Ta-ta.